plan. You be the judge if this is right for your family. Again, all you have to do is send the team a copy of your mortgage statement by email to reap@ronsiegelradio.com or call today. Ron Siegel, 1-800-306-1990. That is 1-800-306-1990.
Rate subject to change and without notice. Licensed by the California DOC and BRE NMLS 217037 and 145502 and Cal BRE 01869452 and 1866775.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Radio Show, only on Financial News and Talk. Now live in studio, your host, local and national real estate expert and consumer advocate, Ron Siegel.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take. Your family or business can benefit from current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. Before we get to our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest and repeat offender. Laura Meyer is in the house. Welcome.
Hey, Ron, it's so good to be back with you.
Glad to have you with us. And I'd like to let everybody know as you're listening, we are doing things a little bit different than normal, as you can tell, with all of the what do they call it? Social distancing or whatever they want to call it. We're having to do things a little remote. It's not my favorite way of doing radio just because there are so many delays. But hey, we do what we have to do. Let me remind you, if you ever have any more finance-related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly, again, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are no operators standing by. I am it.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money, I personally work with you. Even if you don't have any needs today, save this number on your phone for future reference. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And as we do every day on Ron Siegel Radio, we find something to celebrate. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult than others, but today is Look Up at the Sky Day here in Southern California. It should be a beautiful day to look up in the sky. We're really expecting some nice weather. So, you got to be home. So at least enjoy the weather. Make the best of it. National Dolphin Day. I wish I was out by the beach looking at the dolphins. Ex-Spouse Day. Well, after Saturday is 33 years, so I can't say anything about an ex-spouse, but 33 years she's put up with me, so I got to give her an award for something like that. And having beaten anorexia, National Pecan Day. As long as it's in a pie, I am very, very happy with National Pecan Day. Let's take a look and see what is happening with the markets. They have been on a roller coaster, especially since the president started making comments yesterday a little bit more actively about the idea of reopening the government, reopening our society. And I am a big, big proponent of that, although you probably heard me and my monologue yesterday. I did catch some grief for it. I expected to catch a lot of grief for my monologue yesterday. But hey, you know something? When you're doing live radio, nobody pays us to sit on the fence. And I just feel that that's not the way to do things. I point out some of the things that maybe others don't want to hear, but they are what they are.
It is what it is.
So let's look at the markets. Dow Jones Industrial Average up 530 points today. That's a good one. S&P 500 up 69 points today. NASDAQ, wow, that one's up 263 points, led by Amazon. I'm going to tell you right now that I don't know about you, but I've learned a lot about what our real reality was up until about 6 weeks ago. right? I used to be a big shopper on Amazon. I'm big at everything, but right? I mean, that's just my size. That's physical. But I don't like going to stores. So if I needed something, I would go to Amazon. I had just started back in the beginning of March, maybe in February, doing some shopping on Walmart.com. They do a great job of delivering that right when I wanted it delivered. Right? You can make an appointment. But hey, you know something? We found out, we learned something. At least I did. We can't trust those companies. I don't want to put my trust in Amazon. I don't want to put my trust in Walmart when I'm talking about my family's livelihood. So now I'm going to have to really start looking into where are we going to shop once this is over? Because I don't want that neighborhood market going out of business because they were the savior when all of this started happening. I don't want that neighborhood grocery store going away. We can wait for clothing. That's not a big issue. But when it comes to some of our groceries, household items, you know something, I don't really think that those companies, the Amazons, the Walmart.com, you probably can go to the store, but some of those companies, they're not going to be there when we really need them. Just my personal opinion. And I would look forward to your commentary as well. You can put it in any one of the chat boxes right there on our pages, wherever you're watching us. We've got a chat box, and I can actually see the comments coming in right there on the studio. So I've got somebody named Facebook user saying that's right. I don't know who that Facebook user is, but hey, you know something? I appreciate you chiming in. So that's kind of where the market is right there. I look at the interest rates, 10-year Treasury down 3.8 basis points. So the yield now on a 10-year Treasury, 0.73. Ow! Still better than many of the other countries. Germany is a negative 0.377. Germany. That's an interesting conversation in itself when we look at what's going on in the world of the coronavirus. I hear people all the time saying, well, look at the stats on Germany, how much better they're doing than the US. Well, here's the fact of the matter. Nobody else is telling you this. Germany has 14 individual groupings, what we would call states. They have 14 individual areas, and they don't have a centralized place to send that data. So that's why you're not getting legitimate data coming out of Germany. I hear others comparing, well, look what's going on in Italy compared to the US. Well, Italy is smaller than Texas. So think about that concept when you're hearing some of the others going on about size and what's happening in those markets compared to our market. So there's a lot of, one of the great things about statistics is you can really make them say anything you want them to say. It's pretty simple right there. Let's see what else is going on in the daily briefing. Obviously, the president in a big argument yesterday. Holy cow, did you see him admonish some of the people in the White House press room? Well, you know that they're all anti-Trumpers anyway. He doesn't have a choice as to who gets in there. I guess the White House Correspondence Department decides who's going to get most of those seats. I don't understand why he stays there so long and takes the garbage from all those people, but that's just me. World Health Organization under fire after Taiwan releases December email showing unheeded warning about the coronavirus. And we're still sending them $400 million, right? Ow! Yeah, I can't see why we're doing that, but hopefully this president will have the gumption to go ahead and stop that, correct that. You know, if they want to be the political arm of China, let China pay for them. Just throw that out there. We did see yesterday that Bernie Sanders came out and endorsed Vice President Biden. Does that? Surprise! Yeah, that doesn't surprise anybody. President Obama will come out and endorse Vice President or former Vice President Biden. That doesn't surprise anybody. Here's the question I have is we already know, it's fascinating to me. We saw what happened with our economy. 8 years of the Obama-Biden administration, what our economy did, and 3 years under the Trump administration. So this is not going to be a opportunity when we go to vote in November of, you know something, I think I know what's going to happen. We really know what's going to happen. We have seen what's going to happen. We've got a precursor to what's happening. So you just have to make the decision for you, your family, what you think is best interest of our country. Do you want another Obama-Biden rerun, or do we want a rerun of President Trump? It's just your decision right there. Moving right along, let's see what else we've got. We did see for the USS Roosevelt, one of their sailors died. We are certainly sorry to hear that. We know that that's going to happen, unfortunately, and there's nothing that we can do beyond sympathize with his family, because this is a deadly disease. Even though I did say that I think we've gone overboard with our response to the disease, that doesn't mean or doesn't make it any less deadly than what we talked about. Troubled waters, China, they've decided to put one of their aircraft carriers out in the China Sea. They think that the U.S. is not watching, but did you see that we did send a whole group of people into the bunker in Colorado to make sure that we are safe from anything going on? And they've got a pretty strict regimen there to watch and make sure that the military that is in that bunker are safe. They go into quarantine for 14 days before they go into the bunker. They're there on 14-day round-robin tours. So I think our government is doing a good job of making sure that is a safety net right there. Did also notice, we saw, and it's not related at all, no relation, but we did see that Hank Steinbrenner passed away. They announced that, no relation to or no relevance to the coronavirus, but he did pass away, they noted this morning. Early 60s. The older I get, the younger that gets to me, but that's just my personal issue right there. Got a lot to talk about today. Laura Meyer is going to chat with us. She is an attorney. We are not giving any kind of legal advice, but Laura's got some thoughts on what doctors and nurses need to be doing right now with regard to their trust, their will. So she's going to give us that input when we come back. We're also going to chat. We've got, is the recession going to cause a housing crisis? We'll talk about that one as well. I gave you a lot of my thoughts on that yesterday, but we're going to get into that also. So a recession, yes, might even be a depression. We'll find out. And I've got a COVID-19 financial resource kit. You can see along the bottom, we've got an upcoming seminar. It's going to be a week from today, 4 p.m. FICO Up Yours is the name of it. That's going to be looking at your credit scores, all that and more. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Connect with us, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio, on Twitter @Ron Siegel. If you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1, Ron Siegel the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Laura Meyer in just a bit.
Are you earning a safe, secure 10+% return on your investments? Is your credit score over 800? Are you living in the home of your dreams or simply where you think you can afford? If the answer to any of these questions is no, what are you doing about it? Text ATP to 79564. Complete a 3-minute complimentary survey, and the area trusted professionals of Ron Siegel Radio will reach out to you to develop a success strategy for you. Again, all you need to do is text ATP to 79564.
Did you know that banks and credit bureaus are rewarded financially if you have bad credit? And the worse your credit score is, the more money they can make off of you? How does that make you feel, knowing that banks are getting rich off of your hard-earned money? How does it make you feel, knowing that if a bank or a credit bureau makes a mistake on your credit report, they benefit from it and it hurts you? The Fair Credit Report Act of 1971 requires banks and credit bureaus to report only accurate information, and nearly 100% of all credit reports are inaccurate. If you're sick and tired of being broke and tired of being robbed by the banks, you owe it to yourself and to your family to call Rondi. Rondi is a FICO certified credit professional and has helped thousands of people just like you get out of debt and establish great credit. Rondi's number is 855-608-1990. Again, that's 855-608-1990. Or visit creditsanitizer.com. Again, that website is creditsanitizer.com.
Are you a veteran, own a home, and need money? The Siegel Lending Team is here to help veterans refinance and get the money they need. The VA 100 lets you borrow up to 100% of your home's value, refinance your mortgages, consolidate credit cards, and lower your payments by an average of $700 a month. And the Siegel Lending Team knows that that character means more than a credit score. Call 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990. Rate subject to change without notice. Licensed by the California Department of Corporations, NMLS 21037, and DRE number 018694552.
Are you a veteran, police officer, firefighter, doctor, nurse, or teacher? If so, you qualify as one of Ron Siegel's VIP heroes, and we have rewards up to $5,000 or $10,000 when you buy, sell, or refinance a home with one of the Ron Siegel radio partners. As one of the heroes, real estate agents will rebate part of their commission. Lending partners will give a credit at closing. The title company has special published rates, and many other service providers have incentives too. All you need to do is call Ron Siegel Radio at 1-800-306-1990. That's 1-800-306-1990. Or visit VIPHeroProgram.com. Just think about what you will do with all the rebates and incentives from the partners of Ron Siegel Radio. Just call us at 800-306-1990 so we can show you our appreciation for your service.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. In the Mortgage Minute today, being brought to you by our friends at Gold Star Mortgage. When you're ready for that next mortgage, Gold Star has the programs and the products. You just need to make the call again, 800-306-1990. Dow Jones Industrial Average now up 564 points. NASDAQ is up 283 points. That's going crazy right now. Mortgage-backed securities, they're down about 9 basis points. Not a big deal there. The 10-year Treasury down about 2 basis points. You can find all that information on the super secret website, google.com. But let's take a look at why these things are happening. What is causing this in the market? And I will tell you, when we've talked about the 10-year, the mortgage-backed securities, I should say, they're basically, the Federal Reserve heard us say, stop buying those mortgage backs. And what they've done is they've scaled back their buying. So if we were to look at the mortgage-backed securities today versus what they were, just a couple of weeks ago, they are right about the exact same numbers. The FHFA head, though, Mark Calabria, coming under a lot of pressure, 20 members of the House wrote a letter requesting a facility for servicers due to forbearances. Forbearances on mortgages have gone crazy. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked when they find out, something, you did get a mortgage forbearance, but it is all due and payable at one time at the end of that forbearance, unless you go through a loan modification process. And that's going to be the shocker, because I don't know anybody who's going through and saying, something, I'm going to have that much money to make a payment at that time. It's going to be a shock. We'll see what happens. Cass Freight reported their shipments index for March, showing that it fell 9.2% year over year. Not a big surprise on that one. And one of the other numbers, CoreLogic came out with an outdated report. And the only reason I bring this up is it is a loan performance report from the month of January, showing that loans 30 days or more past due decreased from 3.7 to 3.5%. Seriously delinquent loans, which is defined as 90 days or more, remain stable at 1.2%. So seriously delinquent homes, that's in foreclosure, also unchanged at 0.4%. That's a 20-year low. So it kind of just goes back. The reason I brought that up is just to mention the fact that a lot of folks were in really, really good shape when the economy shut down. I think it's going to have a positive bearing going forward. And one of the other big differences from the financial meltdown, the Great Recession, has to do with the fact that so many people have so much more equity in their homes. That is a huge, huge benefit. So that is our Mortgage Minute today, brought to you by our friends over at Gold Star Mortgage. When you're ready for a new mortgage, interest rates are going to get significantly lower shortly. You want to be watching that to make sure that you're getting your share of you take care of your family. That's the issue. But let's take a look taking care of the people that are taking care of us? That's the other big issue. Attorney, again, we're not giving any kind of legal advice. Laura, can you hear me at all?
I can hear you. How's my sound?
Okay, I'm not hearing Laura right now. We had a little technical difficulty a minute ago, but seemed to go away. So maybe our computers are taking a while to warm up. Laura, we've known each other a long time. We just need our computers to warm up.
Yeah.
This is the issue. So anytime you want to talk, just talk, and I'll keep going until I hear you, so we can.
Okay.
Maybe we can get you to come in there.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, should I call in?
I'm still hearing you.
Yeah,
I'm still seeing your mouth moving, but
I'm
not
going to
hearing
call
you.
you.
Okay, Laura's going to try calling us, I think, and stay on this line, Laura, just in case, and see if you can go in a second channel off of your phone.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that'll work, but one of the big issues, and I'll just kind of throw some commentary out there. Hopefully, Laura can hear me while she's coming in on the other line. Is that there are a lot of folks, doctors and nurses, and there's a lot of people that we find they just don't get it. They go out there and they think they've got the right trust, they've got the right. That's fascinating. Okay, so Mitchell's telling me that he can hear Laura. I just can't hear Laura. So that's, you gotta love that part of it. So now we got to figure out what's going on. So Laura, I'm gonna if Mitchell's telling me that he can hear you, what I want to do is I'm going to just have you go ahead and run with it. And we've got a chat window that I can actually kind of let you know when we got to go to a break. So tell us what you have to say, and I'm going to try and hear you on another computer in my studio here.
Ron, can you hear me okay now? Ron? So I called in on that other line. No, okay.
I think we lost Laura, but Mitchell's going to keep me posted on what he can hear. I know our audience can. I cannot. So go ahead, Laura. I don't see you, but I hear.
Okay, Ron.
Go ahead, Laura. I can hear. We can hear you on Facebook. I just can't hear you in the studio.
All right. Well, if you want to give me the thumbs up, I can start talking. Okay. Well, this is unusual. Ron, can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. So, all right. Well, I can hear you, Ron. So I'll just start talking. But if you want to ask me the questions, I could certainly hear you. Otherwise, I could bore everybody with a long monologue on my end, whatever you want me to do. But I'm really just here to talk today to help, anybody listening who is in the medical community, or maybe they have a loved one in the medical community serving right now. There's a big problem going on beyond just them not having their equipment and face masks and all of those protections that they need. And really what's happening is, as these doctors and nurses and hospital staff members are really on the front lines and are really seeing a lot of unusual things, they are feeling, of course, naturally themselves panicked and worried. And as that happens, you've probably noticed in the media, doctors are going on television, nurses are going on television, saying that they're making their last will and testament. Because they're afraid that they could potentially get sick and maybe pass away, and they want to make sure that they've done some form of estate planning. Well, naturally when we're panicked, it seems like that would be a great quick fix, because we've always grown up thinking and hearing that term, get a will. But the reality is, in places especially like California, a will is simply not enough to really protect you in a medical emergency or if you pass away. And that's simply because a will is very limited in what it can do. And so, for example, while people rush to set up a will, a lot of them are going online or they're making their own. And while you can certainly do that, and you can address where you want your assets to go when you pass away in a will, and who should be in charge, or even who should raise your kids, the challenge is that in order for that will to become operative and effective, it only comes into play after you pass away, and your family would actually have to file it with a court and go through a long and expensive court process called probate, which can take 18 to 24 months long. It's open in public. It's super expensive. And so while people are rushing out to make a will, what they're not realizing is that by doing so, they're really only addressing one component of, their life in terms of it's just addressing their death. It's very limited, and it will cost their family tens of thousands of dollars plus a lot of heartache and turmoil. So while it's good that physicians and nurses are thinking about protecting themselves legally, if, in this kind of situation, making your will is not the answer. I always say making a will is effective as me making my own homemade ventilator. It's just a really bad idea.
Wow.
And so what we want physicians and nurses to do is what we probably should have all done that day when we went to the grocery store and saw it empty and everybody buying the last can of pinto beans, knowing none of us are ever going to really eat the pinto beans. What we needed to do, what they need to do is take a step back. Let's let the logical part take over, not the emotions, and realize, look, yes, it's good for all of us, not just doctors and nurses. Yes, it's very good to address if we get seriously sick or we pass away. But rather than panic, we need to gather information, get educated on what we actually need. And of course, that's the story of life, right? If we just didn't let our emotions take over, we would avoid a lot of foolish decisions. But really,
is it too late at this point? I mean, these folks are working, double shifts. Are folks like yourself available? Is it something that could be, a temporary trust or a preliminary trust? Something that could be, I don't know what the right term is.
Yeah.
But could that be done right now?
Well, certainly. And so really what physicians and nurses will likely need, especially in places like California, if they do want to avoid probate when they pass away, and they do want to make sure their kids would never be put in temporary foster care during, a serious illness or anything like that. And if they want to make sure that if they were ill, that their medical decisions could be made and their financial decisions, if they really want to address that scenario in an effective way, they do need to set up a solid estate plan. And that's going to include usually a revocable living trust. It's going to include your medical, your financial power of attorneys, and it's going to include having an advisor, an attorney who has a fiduciary duty to help you set that up and is on the hook to make sure it's done correctly. It's going to include having to work with somebody like that, because that way, if something does happen or you do get sick or pass away, you're not just turning to a set of insufficient documents that are going to have to go to a judge. You're actually able to avoid even having to go through court, setting it up in advance, and then you have your attorney who can help guide you in those moments. And I will tell you, being in the middle of COVID-19, this time period, as an estate planning attorney, I've had to guide several clients on their estate plan with someone getting seriously ill. And it's not because they're getting COVID-19 necessarily. It's because right now, just the state of the hospitals is such where you can no longer take your loved one in for anything and sit by their bedside and be there and help direct decisions. The hospitals are basically shut down in many senses to outsiders, anyone who's not the patient. And so if you haven't made your wishes known and you haven't done your directives and you haven't filed that with the hospital, then you are really leaving yourself at risk, and your loved ones are really precluded in many ways from participating in those decisions. And I know the hospitals are trying to reach out to people and do the best they can, but they're trying to save lives. They can't be constantly getting on the phone or trying to decide what family member should chime in. And so really,
which is a fascinating thing, because all they can do is the best that they can do. And
right.
If they make the phone call and I'm not the right person for them to call, they're not going to be going through the whole family to call a bunch of different people.
Exactly, because I mean, their hands are so full, they just can't be. And despite their best efforts, it's just not happening. And so if you need, if you want that confidence to make sure that if your loved one got sick for any reason and had to go to the hospital right now, all of that needs to be set up in place. The hospital needs to know in advance who they should be talking with, and your wishes do need to be known. They need to be formalized. So you're dealing with not just, when you think about, these scenarios, a will, once again, it's just kind of an after the fact, when I die, here, judge, here's where my stuff goes. But there's this whole huge span of time before then when you really do need a solid estate plan that's going to address if you're sick or pass away, all of that, without having to run into courts and without having any obstacles where the hospital doesn't even know who to talk to or what your wishes are. And all of that can be.
This, Laura, if I wanted to set up a will and trust right now, but I wanted something to be done quickly, just because I don't believe that I have the time. I'm a doctor and nurse, somebody that's ill, and you want to just get what I would call a makeshift or a temporary project done. Can I then come back to you a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks later or a month later, once I've recovered or once this scenario is passed, and do something that I would call a little bit more permanent?
Well, and that's, and of course, physicians are asking us that same exact question. And so my response to that is, if I fall and I bang my head right now against the wall and I have a gashing wound on my head, is it okay if I try and put a Band-Aid on it and then try and come see a surgeon in a couple of weeks? And the answer is no. It's not a good idea. That you actually need professional guidance right away, because in many cases you can be doing more harm than good. For example, if people don't do their estate planning, we do have default laws in California that will address all those scenarios. So if you're trying to dabble and trying to do something on your own, sometimes I find that people would have been better off not doing anything at all, and we could have just relied on the default laws. So really what I would say is I want to encourage those physicians to contact a reputable estate planning attorney. I can't speak for all of my colleagues in the industry, but I know myself and several of them are doing they are prioritizing plans for first responders, and they are getting bumped to the top because we know that their time is limited. And that they are on the front lines. And so really it's finding a reputable estate planning attorney that can help expedite your plan, who has a fiduciary duty to help you and can certainly be there to help your family navigate this situation if you do indeed get sick or pass away.
Great information. We're going to continue our conversation with attorney Laura Meyer, not giving you any legal advice today, but giving you some great guidance on what you need to be thinking about. It might be the perfect time to, there's always a silver cloud in everything, and we're sitting home, many of us right now, and this might be the great time to have that tough conversation with your loved ones. And then, and I don't want to ever get to the point of I'm a big proponent of professional guidance. Right. I mean, I could go and I need double knee surgery, and I could probably find the way to do that on google.com. Probably would not have a great outcome. So I want to just throw that out there and make sure that you're not thinking by any stretch of the imagination that we're giving that guidance. But I do want you to go and talk to a professional. If you want to meet Laura Meyer, give me a call. I'll put you in touch with her. And you are listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, recession, yes. Housing crash, no. We'll talk about that, all that, and more. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Connect with us, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. On Twitter, @Ron Siegel. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, shame on you, but the replay is available. Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Siegel Lending Team offers you buying power. Let's say you can afford a monthly mortgage payment, including principal and interest, of around $1,900. With today's rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage of 3.75%, APR 3.85%, that payment could support a $416,000 mortgage. But if you wait and rates tick up to around 6.5%, which is roughly the average home mortgage rate over the past 30 years, that same $1,900 mortgage payment, including principal and interest, may only be able to support a $314,000 mortgage. That's over $100,000 worth of home you're missing out on by waiting. That's buying power. All you need to do to get started is reach out to the Siegel Lending Team at 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990. Or visit SiegelLendingTeam.com. That's SIEGEL LendingTeam.com. Payment example excludes taxes and insurance. Call us for full details, 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990 or SiegelLendingTeam.com. Equal housing lender, licensed under NMLS number 217037.
Are you purchasing or own a luxury home? If you're like so many others, your home is your largest asset and the mortgage is your largest debt. The Siegel Lending Team has some amazing financing opportunities right now. Jumbo loans up to $2 million, 30-year rates below 4%, 15-year rates near 3.5%, and if you can believe it, 7-year interest-only hybrids in low 3s. The Siegel Lending Team has all the options for your jumbo or second home loan requirements. Take advantage of them while you can. To learn more about all the other financing products available from the Siegel Lending Team, call 1-800-306-1990. That's 1-800-306-1990. Or visit SiegelLendingTeam.com. That's SIEGEL LendingTeam.com. Again, call 1-800-306-1990. Rates subject to change without notice. Licensed by NMLS ID 217037 and 145502. Equal housing lender.
Homeowner.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by the area trusted real estate professionals of Ron Siegel Radio. Text SLT Home Digest to 79564. Find out exactly what the county recorder knows about your property. Find out what the market knows about your property. Recession, yeah, we're probably already there. It might even be defined down the road as a depression. Housing crash, I'm going to say no, with over 90% of Americans now under a shelter-in-place order. Many experts are warning that the American economy is heading toward a recession if it's not already in one. What does that mean to the residential real estate market? What is a recession? According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, and I quote, a recession is a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, lasting more than a few months, normally visible in real GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales, unquote. What the heck does all that mean? Just think about it. GDP goes down 2 quarters in a row. That's the basic idea of a recession. I'm sure we're already there. COVID-19 hit the pause button on the American economy in the middle of March. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley are all calling for a deep dive in the economy in the second quarter of this year. Though we may not yet be in a recession by the technical definition of the word, most believe history will show we were in one from April to June. Does that mean we're heading for another housing crash? Absolutely not. Many fear a recession will mean a repeat of the housing crash that occurred during the Great Recession of 2006 to 2008. The past, however, does show us that most recessions do not adversely impact home values. Doug Bryan, CEO of Mind Property Management, explains, again, I quote, with the exception of 2 recessions, the Great Recession of 2007-2009, and the Gulf War, 1990 to 1991, other recessions have impacted the U.S. housing market, according to Freddie Mac Home Price Index data collected. They've gone up 6.1% to 1980, 3.5% 1981, 6.6% in 2001. So what are the experts saying this time? This is what 3 economic leaders are saying about the housing connection. Robert Dietz, chief economist at the National Association of Home Builders. Housing sector enters this recession underbuilt rather than overbuilt. That means as the economy rebounds, which it will at some stage, housing is set to help lead the way out. Ali Wolf, chief economist with Myers Research. Last time housing led the recession, this time it's poised to bring us out. This is the Great Recession for leisure, hospitality, trade, transportation, in that this recession will feel as bad as the Great Recession. It's not going to feel as bad for the housing. John Burns basically comes up with the same commentary. Bottom line, if we're not in a recession, we're about to be in one. This time, however, housing will probably be what brings us out of the recession, because there is such pent-up demand in the marketplace right now. That is the Real-Time Real Estate segment, again, brought to you by our friends at SLT Home Digest. Text that mbelinks.com/SLT Home Digest. Get that information right away. I'm trying to find that. I know we've got Laura Meyer with us. And one of the things, we started chatting with Laura Meyer. She is an attorney right here in Southern California. We are not giving legal advice. I'd like to make that clear every time we come on. Don't want to get Laura in trouble at all, but she gives us some great guidance all the time, been a part of our broadcast for many, many years, her and her firm. We certainly appreciate the guidance, and especially at times like this. It's great because I didn't even reach out to Laura. She reached out to me and said, hey, you know something? Maybe this is a great time for us to chat with people. And that's what we really like about having some of the partners we have on Ron Siegel Radio, is the fact that they are out there looking to help. They're looking to give you the guidance that you need. So we talked a little bit in the last segment, I hope you caught that, about estate planning for doctors and nurses in this time. And I threw something out there at the end of the last segment, Laura, that so many people are home right now. I know my wife is almost finished Netflix. She's been binge watching the whole thing. I'm not sure there's any part of it that she's missed yet. But this might be a great time for people to be a little serious and contemplate. This we always say we don't have time. Well, now we have time. What should somebody really start doing right now if they want to get serious about their future?
So one of the things is obviously people need to ask themselves, if something happened to me today, like I became very seriously ill, or if I passed away, is that okay? Is my family protected? Have I addressed these issues? And sometimes the beginning of this conversation, it really begins with ourselves and being honest about whether or not we have done what we should do morally and legally to protect the people who rely on us and to protect ourselves in that type of situation. So that's the first thing, is identifying, do you need to do this? And I always say the test really is, could you right now, if you do have a plan, because some people have plans, but maybe they weren't sure if it's that great or maybe it's outdated, but could you hand that plan right now physically to somebody else and say, all is well, I'm good to go? And a lot of times people will say, oh, no, maybe you did something online, or maybe it's been 20 years since you've looked at the estate plan you did. In those situations, your next step really is you need to connect with a professional, an estate planning attorney, who can help you understand what you have or what you need. So if you don't have any planning at all, that's a given that you need to talk with a professional who can guide you. But if you do have some form of planning, you need to have it reviewed and make sure it's all up to date, that you have that relationship with an attorney, and that all your assets are properly, titled and connected to your estate plan. So you wouldn't be exposing your family to having to go to courts, which, by the way, are shut down right now. That's the largest frustration, is not only if you do not have this set up, the courts are closed. It's not a matter of it's not as simple as just rushing in constantly to get guidance or authority to make decisions for a loved one. It's closed. So that's why it becomes even more critical to make sure in times like these, if you are sitting at home thinking about if you need this or if you should do it, is yes, this is the perfect time. And it's not because we're panicked about COVID-19 necessarily, but it is a good reminder that eventually many of us will get sick. And eventually, all of us at some point will die. That is a fact. There's no way around it. And so the more you can set these things up in advance, the better it will be for your family. And I need to tell you, because if I was listening to this, I would probably be thinking, gosh, yes, an estate planning attorney telling me I need to hire someone like her to set this up seems a little self-serving. But let me tell you, when you mentioned that, we're out here to educate and we care, the truth is estate planning lawyers make 10 times the amount of money off people who never planned in the first place than they do helping somebody set up. So when we're out here,
number that nobody ever talks about, right?
It's true, because that's what, when you go through courts, it will cost you 10 times the amount than it would if you just set it up to begin with. So when my colleagues and I are out here telling people, hey, you need to set up a trust, you need to make sure your plan is updated, that's not serving us as the attorney. Again, financially, it would profit all of us much more if nobody did anything at all. And that's why we're out here genuinely, because we are the ones that deal with the families in this crisis. We're the ones that have to break the bad news of people going to court. We don't want that for your family. We don't like the uncertainty when somebody's in the hospital and their loved one, especially right now, can't even be by their side or direct their decisions. That's incredibly hard to be part of that. And so we really do want you, if you are home and you're thinking, gosh, I'm not totally confident if something happened to me today that all is well and I'm set up, you need to make that call. And I mean, yes, if you want to call the Meyer Law Firm, that would be wonderful. We'd be happy to help you. But I always say, I am not the only great estate planning attorney here in Orange County. Many competitors / colleagues who can help. We want to make sure you get your planning set up. We care about your family. And we want to make sure if you're sick or pass away, everyone, including yourself, is protected.
So Laura, if we were to go on your website, is there some sort of a form that, or a list of questions that we really need to be prepared to answer when we sit down for that consultation with you?
Sure. So anyone who is interested in talking with our team, typically the process is they'll speak first with our client service director, who will walk them through the process, which is nice. It's very hand-holding, but there's a general questionnaire that clients fill out, and I'm sure that's similar to other with my other colleagues in the area. But you fill out a questionnaire where you're just identifying who's special to you, who's in your family, what assets that you have. So you're kind of compiling that. And then if you have an existing estate plan, you're usually submitting that so we can tell you, look at it and what you have. And then after that, working with a great estate planning attorney, what's nice about that is they will guide you on what you even need to think about. And oftentimes that's what people say is, gosh, I never even thought about that. And I joke and say, you mean you don't stay up at night thinking about whether you want to donate organs? Like, of course not. But estate planning attorneys are going to help you understand what you should be thinking about. Really, what I want people to think about before they come to an estate planning attorney is I want them to be thinking about how they would want things to play out if they were sick or if they passed away. I want them to think about how they feel about, ventilators or end of life situations. I want them to think about who in their life is special to them and who should be included in their plan. And I want them to think about what kind of legacy, and this is probably the most important, is what kind of legacy are they hoping to leave behind? Because at the end of the day, estate plan just helps facilitate that. But the larger thing is we only have so much time. And COVID-19 is really highlighting that point for all of us. Look how fast the world changed within a week. I mean, unbelievable. No one has ever seen that before, in this lifetime. And I want people to take that opportunity to look around and say, what is most important to me? How do I want things to play out if I'm sick or pass away? And how do I want to be remembered? And the rest stuff we can help with.
One of the things I want to throw at you, and I hate talking over you, and that's why I hate doing remote shows, but we have to do that right now. We don't have a choice, right? But the concept here is, at one point in time, and I don't know whether the number is still the same, but several years back, when people start thinking that they can do this online, even when they go to attorneys that are not so great.
Yeah.
There was a statistic that I had seen or read that 80% of the trusts were not funded properly. Is that still the case? And can you explain that a little bit?
That's absolutely true. So when, a lot of people think setting up an estate plan is downloading a document. And it's just a legal document. But the reality is that document has to come to life, if you will. So not only should it be comprehensive and really address a lot of what if scenarios, which a lot of times these boilerplate documents don't, but all of your assets, like your home, your bank accounts, your retirement, your life insurance, your brokerage accounts, they have to then get retitled in some way, or the beneficiaries have to get redesignated in some way to eventually connect to your trust. And retirement's a little bit different, and I'm not going to launch into that. But generally speaking, the other assets have to somehow get connected with your trust. If they are not, and they're left outside that trust that you downloaded, which may or may not even have a lot of the provisions that you need, that's still going to end up going through a probate process. Which is the whole point of why you're setting things up, to avoid that. If your trust is not continually, if your accounts aren't continually updated and connected to your trust, you could end up with a probate situation, and it's extremely common. And that's why truly the only way to combat that is to be having a relationship with your estate planning attorney, where it's not a one-off, here's some documents, go, but they really are your guide, and they really are helping you. It's the same exact thing with the doctor. We would never go in when we're 20 years old and get a physical and assume that we're good to go the rest of our life. We check in with our doctor, we get guidance. If we need medicine, we get it. That's the kind of relationship that you do need with your estate planning lawyer to make sure that things are continually updated and connected to your trust. And then certainly if something happens to you, to make sure there's an objective person who knows you and cares about you and can help your family during that time.
That's some great information. I know you've also done a lot of workshops on helping young
I did in the past when we could socialize with people.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I've been looking at, and we just decided that today that we're going to do our FICO Up Yours workshop on February 21st, a week from today at 4:00, right here, same place. But I know you've done a lot of these, talking about some directives, because we don't know. I mean, the first thing I know, I just saw some friends of mine that they made reservations in Las Vegas for, I think, the first weekend of May. So people are getting ready to get out of town, and they want to escape and do something different. At some point, we're going to all be able to. But a lot of folks are, the kids want to get rid of mom and dad. Mom and dad want to try and get a little bit of a break as well. And in some of your workshops, you've talked about the idea of doing some of the planning for kids. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess my first thing that I'll tell your listeners is I'm a mom of 4 kids. And if you're thinking homeschooling must be super fun for me right now, you can imagine it's very overwhelming having my kids at home. But, I am a mom of 4 kids, and, my husband and I, Josh, when we started our law firm, we really set it up with the notion of, hey, typical estate plan is usually just for the elderly, or when you pass away, it's a few documents. But when you have dependents on you, like children, or maybe you have an adult child with special needs, people who depend on you, the things you need to consider are different, and they are more expansive. And so I will tell you, as a mom, beyond me just having my trust and those things to make sure my family will be financially taken care of, I also have a complete kids emergency plan. So if I get sick or my husband gets sick and we can't immediately care for our children because we're hurt, there is a short-term emergency plan in place that ensures there's 4 to 5 families that live in this area who can have the legal authority to keep our kids in an emergency if we end up in the hospital. We also have made sure that we've named permanent guardians of who could raise our children if something's happened to us. We also have made sure that our children have medical directives. So if we're sick and our children are hurt, that there's family members that can direct their medical decisions rather than leaving it to the hospital or the government. And then instructions to our guardians who we've chosen to raise our kids on what kind of life we want them to have. So beyond just the money aspect of making sure they're provided for in our trust, we've had to address that short term so that they're fully taken care of in the short term and the long term physically by who we want and how we want. And that's something that when we have clients who come to us and they have minor children, we don't just name a permanent guardian like most traditional estate firms do, we do have the Expansive Kids Emergency Plan to fill in all those gaps and make sure our kids would be taken care of every second of the day if something happened to us.
Right now, I would assume that that's probably, I shouldn't assume, but I'll ask you, it would seem to me that that's even more important than on normal times, because what happens if mom and dad have to be quarantined and the kids are not, right? We need somebody that has the legal right to take care of our kids.
Sure. And so, hopefully as long as we have capacity and could direct even, through the the phones on what we would want for our children's care, hopefully we could just direct that they go with the grandparent or whatever. But what if they get sick? Can the grandparents make medical decisions without legal authority? No, they can't. Or what if we ended up in the hospital and we couldn't communicate anymore? Have we given that short-term authority legally to our parents to care for our kids? So it is critical to have that in place. And again, this is increased right now, especially just because once you're in the hospital right now, it's a totally different ballgame than it used to be pre-COVID-19.
A lot of changes right now and a lot of things that we need to really just start looking at for the benefits of our family. It's just, Laura, I've said for many, many years when you and I have done broadcasts together in the past, that my biggest belief is that a very, very sound financial plan is really a gift, right? It's something that goes on in our life. That's a big gift to our heirs and our family. So I really appreciate you coming on this morning. I just popped up on our screen the website for Laura. If you want to reach out to Laura and talk to her team, you can give me a call at any time, 800-306-1990. Really appreciate you reaching out to us and coming on to educate all of us a little bit today. And as always, I ask, set that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Big thanks to John, who's engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.
Lights go out and I can't be saved. Tides that I tried to swim